Good morning, class. It's another beautiful morning. It's Tuesday, January the 12th. And if today is Tuesday, what do you think yesterday was? That's right. Yesterday was Monday. And what will tomorrow be? Wednesday. We said our month is January. And what's our year? Our new year, 2021. I'm looking out my window here. There's not too much sunshine this morning, but there is a lot of beautiful snow out there. And there's some clouds in the sky. And we know that when there's snow out there, our season is winter. Well, let's thank the Lord for this beautiful day He's given us and ask Him to be with us today. Dear Jesus, thank you for this new day, for a good night's sleep, for our homes and our families. Thank you for healthy bodies and minds to learn today. We thank you that you're with us and that we can be confident that you'll never leave us and we can always talk to you and you always have the right answers. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And what's that word we're talking about this week in our Bible time? Confidence. Let's say it together. Confidence. We know that we can be confident when the Lord, our best friend Jesus, is with us. When we're afraid, who can we go to? When we need help, who can we go to? Jesus is always there. He's not pushy, but He's always there for us to come to. So when we're feeling afraid, angry, upset, or we're trying to learn something new and it's difficult, let's always remember to talk to Him, and He's our helper. So that reminds us of our verse this week. It comes from the book of Psalms 118, verse 6. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. And let's say that with emphasis. I will not be afraid. I know that if you practice that every day this week, you're going to have it down pat on Friday. And our Bible story today is called, just one second. I think I have the wrong paper here. Oh, here it is. Our Bible story today is called Bought with a Price. So I hope you enjoy learning about confidence when you're reading this story called Bought with a Price. We're going to move on now to language, and we're learning about what letter this week? If you watched your video and did your work from yesterday, you know that our letter of the week is O. And who can tell me what two shapes the letter O is made of when we put them together? That's right. We start at the top, we make a curve down to the bottom, we go back up to the top and we make another curve. So two curves together makes a circle. One curve is called a semicircle, or half of a circle. Semicircle means half of a circle. And we know another shape that's half of a circle. We call it a curve, or we call it a C. If we put two C's together, we have an O. And we can see the uppercase O and the lowercase o. The only difference is that the lowercase is smaller. We see a word here that starts with the sound of the letter O. Let's say that sound together. Ah, ah. We open our mouth up wide and say ah, or we flick the light on or off. And all of those words start with the sound ah. Octopus, on, off, ah. Well, we said that the letter O is a special letter because it's a vowel. It can say its sound ah, or it can say its name O. So when you're practicing this page, you're going to trace the uppercase and lowercase O's that they've done for you, then you're going to write a row of your own uppercase O's starting at the top line and coming to the bottom. And then a row of your lowercase O. They don't start at the big top line, the big black top line. They start at the middle dotted line. Because remember, they're smaller, so they're not as tall as the uppercase O. It starts at the top line. The lowercase O starts at the middle dotted line. So when O says its own name, it's in front of words like open or okay, orange. So you have the JKs are going to do these two pages, and the SKs are going to do this page. So SKs, this is your page with the octopus at the top, and oh my goodness, I'm always mixing this up. JKs, this is your page with the octopus at the top. You know that, don't you? JKs, just this page, one page. But SKs, you're doing two pages. You're doing a page where O says its own name and when O says its sound. On this page where O is saying its own name, we have the word open, and there's a picture of someone opening a door. These words underneath have the O as the second letter, and when I say these words, you'll hear that letter O. Bone. Can you hear the O in the middle of bone? Rose. Can you hear the O there? Rose. And rope. Can you hear the O there? Rope. So all of those words have an O in them that says its own name. When a letter says its own name, or when it's a vowel, we call that a long O. When it says it's a sound, we call it a short O. So in these words on this page, we have words that start with the sound ah and words that have the sound ah in the middle of them. So the first word is on, and we have a light switch. On. The second word has an O in the middle of it. Pot. Can you hear that ah sound in the middle? Rocks and ma-op. So on these two pages, you're going to do your row of uppercase O's and lowercase O's, and then you're going to write the words on the lines beside that have O in them. A long O page where it says its name, and a short O page where it says its sound. These are for the SKs, and this one page is for the JKs. Alrighty, that's our language for today, and we're going to move on to our math lesson. We've been talking about shapes. Last week we just talked about 2D shapes, flat shapes, and this week we're talking about 3D shapes. Shapes that have width to them, that are fat, that we can hold on to. So, I have some with me today. Let's see. What shape is this? See, I can hold on to it. It has more than one side to it. It's thick. It is tall and long and wide. So tall, long, and wide, that's 3 dimensions. It's a 3D shape. What shape do you see when I hold it up like this? Yes, it's a rectangle. And it has a rectangle on this side, and if I turn it again, it has a rectangle on this side and a rectangle on this side. It has 2 square ends to it, so 2 long sides, well, it's actually 4 long sides when we hold on to it, and 2 short sides. If we would draw it on the board, it would just be 2 long sides and 2 short sides. But when it's a 3D shape and we can hold on to it, it has 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4 long sides and 2 short ends that are squares. So that is a 3D rectangle or a cube. And what does this one look like? Does it look kind of like a stop sign? Yes, it does. But it's not just flat on the end. It has a whole bunch of sides to it that make it wide and fat. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sides. Well, that makes it fat, and it kind of looks like a stop sign. And if we draw it on the board, it's just flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, mine is a little bit wonky. And 6. There we go. That's flat. It doesn't have all those sides like the 3D one does. Well, what do you see on the end of this? Do you see a circle? Yes, and if we take it apart, we can see that the ends are circles. We can take it apart because we can hold it. And the inside, if we rolled it out, would be flat. When we roll it up, what does it look like? Does it look like the shape of a can? Yes. So a 3D circle that we can hold on to is in the shape of a can, and we call that a cylinder. A cylinder. Put it back together, and there we have a cylinder. We can see the circles on the end, and we can hold on to it. So the next time your mom's opening a can of soup or you're putting a can into the recycling bin, remember it's a 3D shape and it's called a cylinder. What about this one? Does it look like a party hat if I put it on top of my head? What about if I turn it upside down? If it had a nice big scoop of ice cream on there, I could lick it. It has a circle on the bottom, but this shape kind of looks like a triangle, doesn't it? It's got round sides that come to a point, and I can hold on to it. This is like a 3D triangle, and it's called a cone. We know that because when it's upside down, we would call it an ice cream cone. It's in the shape of an ice cream cone. So this is a 3D shape called a cone. Do you recognize this shape? Does it look like a pyramid? That's because it is a pyramid. This cone that looks kind of like a triangle that has a circle on the bottom, this has triangle sides and it has a square on the bottom. That's called a pyramid. Let's count the triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 triangle sides and a square on the bottom. That's called a pyramid. Let's see if we can take this apart. There, we can see the square bottom, and we can see the triangle sides. See, there's 4 of them. We'll fold them back together. The bottom, square bottom back together. We'll put it back in its case, and there we have our pyramid. And I have one more here for you. What does this look like? Yes, it looks like a square, but it has a whole bunch of sides. They're all the same length. It's tall, it's fat, and it's long, and it's fat. So it has a square on the top, a square on the bottom, and 4 squares on the side. They're all exactly the same size, and that makes it a cube instead of a rectangle like this. A square rectangle. They're both 3D, but you can see that we have long sides and short sides. All the sides are not the same length. And with this box cube, or this square cube, all the sides are exactly the same length and the same measurement. So these both look like boxes, different shaped boxes, rectangular shaped box, square shaped box, and they might remind you of something that was under your Christmas tree at Christmas, because they look like the shape of presents, don't they? So those are our 3D shapes. Remember, we can hold on to them. They have width, they're fat, they're not flat like on a chalkboard or on a slate. And that brings me to your sheet that's in your package, page 97 and 98. It's pretty easy peasy. On one side, you're going to see some 3D shapes here. And on the other side, you're going to see some 3D shapes, but these are 3D shapes in the real world. These are 3D shapes like Mrs. Peddler was holding up. You can find these 3D shapes in things all over the real world, in your house and outside your house. So you're going to match the shapes, 3D shapes on this side, to the 3D shapes on this side. Turn the page over. So instead of drawing lines to match, on this side you're going to draw circles that are shaped like cubes. See that cube up at the top? Every 3D shape on this page is not a cube, but there are some that are cubes. So you're going to draw a circle only around the shapes on the page that are cubes. Remember, a cube is made up of squares that are all exactly the same size. So have fun with that. And before we take a little break, I just want to show you again how we practice our letter O, so that when you're working on it, you can form it correctly. So we always start at the top, do a semicircle to the bottom, start at the top, and another semicircle, exactly. A little bit tricky to do this while I'm holding this up, but right down to join it. And I know you'll do yours much more neatly than Mrs. Peddler is doing this on the whiteboard. But just to show you that it's 2 curves, 1 and 2. We always start at the top. I know you'll do a great job on that. And I think after all that work, it's time to have a stretch break. So stand up, wave your arms around. Do you remember our song for the months of the year? Let's sing that together. January, February, March and April, May, June, July and August, September, October, November and December. These are the months of the year. And do you remember the other fun song that we sing to that very same tune? We haven't sung it for a while. There was an old man named Michael Finnegan. He grew whiskers on his chin again. The wind came out and blew them in again. Poor old Michael Finnegan. Begin again. There was an old man named Michael Finnegan. He grew whiskers on his chin again. The wind came out and blew them in again. Poor old Michael Finnegan. Begin again. There was an old man named Michael Finnegan. He grew whiskers on his chin again. The wind came out and blew them in again. Poor old Michael Finnegan. Don't begin again. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them. Give a little clap. Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them. Open them, shut them, and fold them in your lap. And we're ready to take a break. Find a cozy spot, sit down and relax for story time. Today we have a story called Surrounded by the Sea. It's written by an author named Gail Gibbons. Life on a New England fishing island. And you know that last day our story was about the little island, and we learned some things about islands that we didn't know. Can you remember one thing? Yes. Islands are surrounded by water. You can see a little island here in the middle of the water. But what's down at the bottom of the sea that's attached to this land that's coming out of the sea? You're right. It goes all the way down to land at the bottom. And is there life on islands? On the little island, what kind of life was there? That's right. There was a little forest with trees. There was bushes. There was all kinds of animals. What were some animals that lived on the little island? Lobsters. There was owls. There was fish, of course, that were around the island. There was birds. Can you remember any other islands or any other animals that were on our little island? And the little island had seasons, just like we do. What are those seasons? Do you remember them? Let's say them together. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. And there was night and day. Well, let's see what's happening on this fishing island. Do you think people live there? What kind of work do you think they do? Let's find out together. It's got beautiful pictures in it. So the illustrator or the artist has done an awesome job bringing these pictures of the island life to us in these photos in the book, the artwork. It helps to put a picture in our mind of what it might look like to live there. And we have pictures of 4 seasons here because we have trees, just like we have the tree in our classroom that changes with every season. And I think you got to see it just before we started learning at home. Mrs. Pedler had changed it to the winter tree. And that's the tree that we have up now. But we also had a tree with apples when you came back. Right here, the apple tree. Then we had switched it to a fall tree with the beautiful colored leaves. And now we have a winter tree. And after winter, we'll have a spring tree with cherry blossoms. The ferry rests at the end of the wharf. It brings supplies and passengers from the mainland to the fishing village. So because the island is surrounded by water, they can't just get in their car and hop in their car and go to the grocery store. When they need supplies, they have to come by a boat. Most of the passengers are island people who spent the winter on the mainland and are ready to return home. So some people didn't want to stay on the island for the winter because they get some really harsh weather there in the winter. So they moved to the mainland for winter and then they come back in the springtime. So the ferry was bringing a lot of those people back. And there's the ferry. The greeters on shore are island folk who stayed on through the winter. So some people did stay there through the harsh winter. Now it's the beginning of a new season. The daffodils are blooming and the tulips are up. So those are spring flowers, daffodils and tulips. And it always makes me smile when I see those spring flowers coming up. It's spring on the fishing island. Different kinds of boats bob about in the harbor winters. So there's the spring tree with the cherry blossoms or apple blossoms. And here's some different boats that go fishing around the island. So the main way that they make money, or the job that a lot of the people have in the fishing village, is to be fishermen or fisherwomen. Along the shore near the general store, some fishermen have beached their boats. There they scrape and clean barnacles and algae off the bottoms of their boats. Some boats get a fresh coat of paint. So because they make their money by fishing, they have to take care of those fishing boats. So sometimes they get barnacles and algae on the bottom from being in the water so long, they have to scrape it off. Sometimes when the paint has been worn off by the water, they get a fresh coat of paint. So there's the fishermen on the shore taking care of their boats. Against the harbor shoreline are workshops built on pilings nestled among the rocks. Empty lobster traps are piled on the wharfs. So those decks there that have tall legs have fishing baskets on them that are called lobster traps, ready to go in the water. Sometimes they have to be repaired. There they are on the wharfs, ready to go in. Inside one of the workshops, a lobsterman gets ready to set his traps. First, he overhauls his traps by fixing the older ones. The older ones are wooden. The newer traps are made of plastic-coated wire. He cuts the lengths of rope, called warps, to connect the buoys to the traps. So here's the buoys hanging from the roof, and there's a trap, and see the rope? The buoys are heavy weights that make sure that the trap doesn't just float away. And when the fisherman comes and sees the buoy, he knows where his trap is. So he's attaching the buoys to the trap. So here's some wooden traps. He said the older traps are made of wood, and here's some plastic traps. The newer ones are made of plastic. This lobsterman paints his buoys red and white. Each lobster fisherman or fisherwoman uses his or her own colors so they know which buoy is theirs. So if they all painted them the same colors, they wouldn't be able to distinguish whose buoys were whose. So they can know whose buoy is theirs and not their neighbor's. They paint it a different color than their neighbor. The lobsterman sets out early the next morning before the sun is up and when the seas are still calm. His lobster boat, stacked high with empty traps, leaves the harbor. There he is. It's still dark because it's very early in the morning, and there's just lobster traps. And he's leaving the harbor. His boat bobs on the waves along with the other lobster boats. He works with his partner, called a stern man, and drops the traps overboard one by one. The stern man is working at the back, so the stern of the boat is the back of the boat, and that's why he's called the stern man. He works at the back. And the other lobster man steers the lobster boat. Each day, they will bring more traps out to the sea until all the traps are finally set. Then the lobstermen are ready for a new season. So they've got their traps set, and you can see the buoys are floating at the top, and they're attached to those traps that are down at the bottom underneath the water. They're attached by those ropes that the fisherman put on. And see, now he knows where his traps are because the buoys are floating at the top. The lobstermen haul their traps almost every day. When they are catching more lobsters, they haul more often. So when there's lots of lobsters around, they go out more often, and they call that hauling. This is how a lobster trap works. So here's the trap. See, it goes all the way down. You see, there's the land at the bottom. And there's a hole for the lobster to go in. There's a treat in there for him that he wants to eat. And he goes through the hole, but then he can't get back out again, so he's trapped inside there. Above the island, a small plane is approaching the gravel runway. It's the mail plane. Bags of mail are delivered to the post office in the general store. So the post office is in the store, and the plane has to bring the mail to the island. Does a plane bring your mail to your post office? No, because we don't live on an island, do we? The storekeeper on this island is also the postmaster. While the lobsters wait for their mail to be sorted, they chat about the weather and the island news. So there the people are at the store waiting for their mail, waiting for that plane to fly in. Can you see it in the sky there? And while they're waiting, they're just having a neighborly chat, enjoying talking to each other. All around the island, vegetable and flower gardens are planted. Along the shore, islanders dig for clams and hunt for mussels during the low tide. So because it's springtime, you can see some people are planting gardens. The trees are getting blossoms on them, and here's some people on the shoreline digging for clams and mussels. These are all things that happen on the island. Lots of things are the same as us. They chat with their neighbors, they get their mail, but they get it from an airplane, and we get ours from a mail truck. They plant gardens like we do, but they probably eat a lot more fish and clams than we do because a lot of the people there are fishermen. We don't have as many people here that are fishermen. And they do have a smaller amount of people that live there, and some of them leave when it's wintertime and then come back in the spring. It's summer on the fishing island now, so we've changed to the summer tree. You can see the blossoms aren't there anymore, but it has bright green leaves. The chlorophyll from the sunshine and the oxygen in the air is making food for the plant called chlorophyll, and that makes the leaves nice bright green color. So we can see that now it's summer on the fishing village, on the island. Now what a busy place the island is. There are more people. A small ferry brings summer people and more supplies. That's another difference. They have to get their supplies from a ferry. It goes back and forth to the mainland more often than the big ferry does. So you can see more people here on the dock and on the boat coming to the island for summer. An island caretaker gets one of the summer cottages ready for a group of people who come to spend the summer on this beautiful remote island. So some people spend their summer holidays there, and there's a man getting a cabin ready for them to stay in. There's the cabin. And there's the man right there. Looks like maybe he's painting the window. Everyone on the island comes to the Canada Day lobster bake. There's a big party on the beach that lasts all day. It ends with fireworks over the water at night. Have you ever seen fireworks on Canada Day? Well, there they are in the sky, and the people are on the beach watching them, and they're having a lobster bake. They caught lobsters. The fishermen caught them in their traps, and now they're baking them and eating them at their celebration. Now, you might see American flags there. If it was Canada Day here, we would have Canadian flags up with our maple leaf in the middle, wouldn't we? But this book was written in the United States, so that's why they have American flags. Twice a week in the summertime, the farmer's market is open. Have you ever been to the farmer's market downtown in Kingston? Island people bring fresh vegetables from their gardens to sell. There are baskets of berries that grow wild on the island. Freshly baked pies and cakes are for sale too. There are handicrafts made by the islanders, and one island boy sells his painted seashells. There's a farmer's market. Lots of people there bringing things that they've grown or they've made to sell. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? A red hot dog truck is parked on one of the wharfs. I love going downtown Kingston in the summertime and going to the market and stopping at a hot dog truck. Islanders and summer people stop by to pick up food and snacks to eat in the warm sunshine. Children play along the shoreline. They wave to the people in the boats offshore. One of the lobstermen hauls up a trap and pulls out a lobster. He measures its size to make sure it's not too short or too long. Lobsters that are too small or too big are thrown back into the sea. This one is just the right size. The farmer puts bands on its claws so it won't pinch him or any other of the lobsters he catches. He drops it into a bin and it was filled with other lobsters as well that he's caught. So here's people enjoying the summer, going to the hot dog truck, playing on the beach, and over here is a fisherman who's out catching lobster, and it said that they're only allowed to catch lobster that are a certain size. If they're too big or too small, they throw them back because they don't want to take all the lobster out of the water. And he puts a band around the pinchers so that it won't pinch him or other lobsters that are in the box that he throws it into with water in there. And maybe some of those lobsters are lobsters that the people ate at the lobster bake at the celebration on Canada Day. The stern man, remember the stern is the back of the boat, puts a fresh bag of bait into the trap and drops the trap overboard again. At the end of the day, they will sell their lobsters to a lobster buyer, who in turn will sell them to the stores and the restaurants on the mainland. So there he is, putting his trap back in, coming back to the mainland to sell them. Oh, now it's changed seasons again. It's fall on the fishing island. So what will our tree look like? It's quieter along the harbor shore. The summer people have all gone home. Smaller summer cottages and homes are shut down by the island caretakers. Only the people who live on the fishing island remain. The small island ferry that went back and forth during the summer has stopped its trips. Now the big ferry goes back and forth to the mainland only about once a month. So can you imagine? If you want to get to the mainland, you can only go once a month or once every 4 weeks in the wintertime. And that's why some people don't stay there on the island in the wintertime. So here's the fall tree with the beautifully colored leaves. You can see that the boys are back on the shore. And what are the boys? Remember? The fisherman puts them on a long rope on his lobster trap so he knows where they are. The boats are empty. There's not as many people fishing, and there's not very many people around. But the fishermen, there are some fishermen that are still busy that work through the wintertime. All kinds of fishing boats move along the horizon. So there's still some boats out there. And here's some different types of boats that they're talking about here. A trawler pulls a fishing net to catch fish. A scalloper hauls for scallops. A dragger drags its net over the ocean bottom to catch fish. Instead of putting a trap down, it drags a net along the bottom. A longliner catches fish on hooks attached to long lines. So it just, if you have a fishing line, Well, this is a really long line with a whole bunch of hooks on it that goes way out in the water. So those are different types of boats. I don't know, the pictures are pretty small up there, but we had one that drags a net along the bottom, one that has a great big long line. Different types of fishing. The island children go back to their one-room schoolhouse in the fall, just like you go back to school in the fall, in September, where their teachers greet them. At the town hall, the small library remains busy. Some of the island people harvest their gardens. Other island folk take boats to nearby islands to pick cranberries. Over near the church, a few islanders spruce up the fire engine. So, if you have a garden, maybe you've helped your parents bring the produce from the garden in the fall, the harvest. Off in the distance looms a huge tanker making its way towards an island river. The captain needs assistance to navigate through the waters. One of the lobster boats is also a pilot boat. It brings the pilot, someone who knows this part of the ocean, out to the tanker to help guide it into port. So some boats help other boats get back into shore. And one of the lobster boats is helping another boat. There's the people getting ready for fall. They're painting the fire truck. The children are going back to school. And over here, we can see a boat that's trying to make its way into shore. He's going out to help this boat out here. Oh, it's changed from fall again. What season is it now? You got it. It's winter. And there's our winter tree. It's winter on the fishing island. It's very quiet. Some of the fishermen and their families have gone to the mainland to get away from the cold, harsh winter. Now only the hardy souls remain. Snow falls to the ground. After school, children make snow sculptures and skate on the ice pond. They look like they're having fun. Have you been skating this winter? Have you been out in the snow making a snowman this winter? Or a snow fort? During the cold nights, lights glow from the island windows. The beam from the lighthouse shines in the distance. The island has its own generator-run power company. A microwave tower on the island picks up and sends phone signals to and from the island so the residents can make calls. So they have to have different towers because they're so far away from the land so that they can have power to keep warm, to have electricity, and to have phones to make calls. So you can see the lighthouse shining in the distance for the fishermen trying to get to land. You can see the hydro wires to give them electricity and phones. And they have a big generator that gives them power so they can have heat. Some lobstermen still haul their traps on clear days. Otherwise, they work inside their warm shops, mending their traps. So in the wintertime, they do a little bit of fishing, but not as much. And since they're indoors more often, they take that opportunity to fix their traps so they'll be ready again in the spring. Inside their homes, folks make handicrafts to sell at the farmer's market next summer. So some people are fixing their traps, some people are making quilts and different things that they're going to sell when the weather gets warm again. And some fishermen are still going out. The people that stay behind love their island home. They will stay through the winter. Soon spring will return to the fishing village out in the sea, and once again the island will be a busy place. So there's this still, quiet island in the wintertime waiting for spring. And there's one last picture of this beautiful fishing island. I hope you enjoyed that story and you're nice and rested, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll meet together again tomorrow. What will tomorrow be? You guessed it, Wednesday. I'll see you Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye for now.